Proper tools in the kitchen is just as important as proper tools in the shop. In this episode, we'll show you some of the restaurant tools that we have and also some of the shop tools that we use specifically in the kitchen. Coming up next. Hi, I'm Scott Payne. They call me the Old Farmer. These are some of the restaurant tools that we use in the kitchen, and they are important for us. And they make our job of cooking easier. If we start at the bottom left, you see there's a spatula, a white nylon spatula. That's what we use in some of the pans that are specially coated to protect them. Next to, immediately to the right, is a hamburger flipper. And a little bit harder to see, there's a pancake spatula that's facing the opposite way. And that's the third thing from the left. The plate in the middle was designed to scrape griddles down, but we use them for getting things off of pizza pans, flat surfaces, and sometimes we use it for scraping, and we use it in baking to help move batter around, such as for bread dough and things like that. Right above is a dough cutter. We use it for making pie crusts. We cut the flour into the vegetable shortening to make pie dough. I can't do it. I never have a pie dough turn out right. But Mrs. Old Farmer Marty does an excellent job of making pies. Boy, not only do they taste good, they look good too. We have two kinds of can openers. The red one on the left is one that you would see in a home where you might have arthritis and you need a little extra leverage. And in the center, you see a regular can opener. And I forgot to mention right below the red can opener, that's a garlic press. We got that from the restaurant supply place. Now let's go over to the right side of the screen. You see two kinds of spoons. One is a utility straining spoon that you can use in stock pots, and most often you would see it being used for cooking large vats of vegetables. Right next to the right is a serving spoon. This serving spoon we use in cooking more so than we do for serving. For example, when we do stir fry, we have several of these spoons, and we use them for tossing the vegetables around in a stir fry. To the right is a long handled flipper. They're not really called spatulas, but they're a long version of the hamburger flipper, and it's a little bit more springy. Up above that is a jar lid opener. You take this lid opener and you tighten it on the top of the lid, crimp it down so you have a good bite on the lid. Then you have leverage for turning that lid. And it does a very good job. Only a couple of times have I had to get out the really big channel locks from the shop to open something up. And I figured it had something like somewhere around 500 foot-pounds of pressure putting that cap on. We talked to the company about that. To the far right, we have two kinds of frosting spatulas. We use them for spreading butter on toast, on bagels. I'm showing you one of each of everything that I can remember that we have gotten from the restaurant supply. For example, the hamburger flippers, we got a couple of three of those. Spatulas, we got a couple of those. The serving spoons, we have maybe 6 or 8 of them, and maybe 12 of the frosting spatulas. In other words, we have enough tools from a restaurant supply house to make our cooking easier and better. But these aren't the only tools that we have. that makes our job in the kitchen easier. Now let me show you the shop tools that we keep in the kitchen to help us cook. These are just some of the tools from the shop that we use in the kitchen. That's right, that's a hammer drill back there, and it's got a wire brush on it. Sometimes when you get something really fried on or baked on, it's hard to get it off. And if it's stainless steel, or if it's cast iron, or whatever is appropriate for using a wire brush on, using the drill, we can get it off quickly, especially if we use something like baking soda along with it to be something that will help polish up the metal. Sometimes when you're doing hard frying, the edge of the pan gets encrusted with burned on grease, and just scrubbing it or running it through the dishwasher isn't going to take care of the problem. Pulling out the drill, putting the brush on it, putting a lot of baking soda in the pan, and then a little bit of water, you'd be surprised how well it does. And then when I get it close to the bottom, I'll bring out a scouring pad, like an SOS pad or a Brillo pad, and stick it on the end of the brush to do the polishing of the pan to bring it back up so it looks like new. On the left, it's what most of us call channel locks. They're $6 a piece right now at Harbor Freight. And we got two pair of them. And there's nothing like using channel locks trying to get a hot pan out of the oven. Or if something's too heavy to carry with the handle, such as a heavy frying pan, you can grab a hold of the other side with the channel locks, and now you got a two-sided hold on it. Fantastic. To the right of it is tin snips. That's right. Now, we don't use those in our cooking per se, but Maggie, with her treats, being a small dog, sometimes it's hard to get the good treats that she would like. So we get the bigger ones and cut them down to size. We use tin snips for that. The orange thing in the center, that's a laser thermometer that you can aim at something and see what the temperature is. We got that at Harbor Freight too. And it comes in handy when you want to see what not the internal temperature, but what the surface temperature of something is. It'll tell you whether it's cooking or not. To the right, that big black thing we got from Harbor Freight for, I think, about $3. Let me come in and show you how it works. This is a clamp. It's one of the cheaper ones, 6-inch capacity clamp. And where it really comes in handy is when you have to pour what's left in one container over to another container. Good example is a ketchup bottle. You stick a funnel in the top and you balance a ketchup bottle on top, and it can quite easily tip over. But by putting the bottom ketchup bottle in the clamp, it stabilizes the whole process. There we go. Got a ketchup bottle right here. It's almost impossible to tip it over. And so you could put a funnel in, and then using a cupboard or a wall, stick the ketchup bottle that you're emptying into this one upside down, and it's stable. It's not going to go all over the place. So a heavy-duty clamp, heavy-duty meaning size-wise, not actually a heavy-duty clamp like a bar clamp or a pipe clamp, but a big clamp like what this thing is. Boy, it makes pouring things over when it needs to take time. Now, if it's something very liquid, like consistency close to water, you just pour it over. But something like ketchup or maple syrup is another example. Salad dressing's another one. Things that pour very slowly and you just have to let it sit there for a while will make a difference when pouring foods over. It just stabilizes it. It might be good in instances where you're pouring a lot of something into a canning jar, and the canning jar is going to be a little wobbly sitting there because you got maybe a big funnel stuck on top where you're pouring it over from a big pan or whatever the case is. Putting this on the bottom of a canning jar while you're filling it may make a difference between spilling and filling the jar appropriately. I almost forgot the most important thing. About 56 years ago, when I was 16, if my math is correct, I got that knife right here. It's a Saboteur. It is a 12-inch knife. Here's a Chicago Cutlery 41S in comparison. This is 12 inches long. This is a Saboteur. It's a French-made knife. I got it when I was 16 years old. And just to show in comparison, this is a 41S Chicago Cutlery knife that most people would use in the kitchen. It's a fantastic pizza knife. And back in my late 20s, early 30s, I can't remember exactly when, did a contest with Mrs. Old Farmer. I couldn't do it now, I just couldn't do it. But back then, I was so fast with this knife, it fits me so perfectly. In fact, it's never cut me. I keep it razor sharp and it has never, ever cut me. But we did a contest. She had a Cuisinart, one of the original Cuisinarts that you would see for chopping up vegetables. And I just wanted to see which was quicker, me with my knife, or her doing enough processing of carrots to feed it through the chute of the Cuisinart. We both had 5 pounds of carrots, and who could chop it the quickest? Me with my knife, or her sizing the carrots to fit in the Cuisinart. We both went through 5 pounds of carrots. We both had our own bag of it. And I beat the Cuisinart by a substantial amount because all the fooling around that you had to do to get the food processing in the Cuisinart, I was able to do it faster and quicker, just like most jobs in the shop. If I have one piece of wood to process, I'll use something like a wood plane or whatever I need to do to process it and do it by hand. Much quicker for one piece than setting up a power tool to do the cut for me or do the sizing for me or whatever I want to do. Now, if I want to do a lot of it, then the power tools will win. But if I just want to do one, most times, if you know what you're doing, the hand tools, the old-fashioned hand tools, are faster. So chances are you'll be faster with the unpowered hand tools for one item, if you know what you're doing, than it is to set up a power tool to do the processing of the piece of wood yourself. So this is my knife that I've had for over half a century, and it has done me well. And this is a knife the way it should be. And I got this at a restaurant supply place, and it fits my hand perfectly.
Before we go, it's important to quickly mention for all who are visiting to subscribe, ring the bell, leave a comment, and share with friends and family. Now for the most important part. Thank you to those who have subscribed. Thank you. And yes, thank you to those who are visiting. We value you too. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers so that we may receive a pittance from YouTube to cover expenses. We replaced one camera, tripod, and bought a water-cooled editor for video production, plus all the tools we review. So if you could help us reach that 1,000 subscription point, thank you. Well, this is the old farmer Scott Bain. Be well, be safe, and be kind to someone.
Don't forget to click like and click subscribe on the Old Farmer YouTube channel. And thanks again for watching. Bye.
The VFW National Home for Children, providing families of veterans and active duty military opportunities for growth and development in a nurturing community. Please consider a donation to help their children and families. I.C. Rhodes speaking.